project. So you're starting, right? So then if you want to bring these ideas to others, maybe you can first understand the other, right? And understand how she or he thinks, right? And what makes sense to them. I will go back to also Roberto, who spoke about that, right? So I don't know, that will be my thought, to understand how you can communicate and what things to communicate. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, and may I had another issue that Christian was Cristiani. Sorry, I know the correct pronunciation. Sorry,
Christian.
Christian. Okay, Christian was saying because, well, one key point is listen to the people, not only tell something to the people, because I think that as a student or designer, I think you have much more to learn from them than what you can teach them. So one, I mean, it is an issue that usually is considered as, how to say, valid, like numbers. Okay, they are valid. And the same thing is that we think that our way of living is correct, and they are making some mistakes. They have criticalities, they have problems. What I understood about this community is that from our point of view, there are a lot of problems, but from their point of view, maybe, and I'm telling you something that is totally qualitative and subjective, maybe they are happier than ourselves. Which is the measure of happiness? It depends on the expectations. So I'm not saying that their way of living is perfect and is correct. I'm just trying to tell you that before teaching the people how they can live, try to listen to which are their expectations from the social point of view, economic point of view, way, lifestyle. Also, maybe if you consider, I give you just an example that is something I am thinking about in the last months. But if you consider how many boundaries do you have in your life, and how many boundaries do they have in their life, maybe you discover that they are more free than you are.
Yes.
We consider that freedom is one of the biggest value that all the Western civilization is facing, and with freedom, economic wellness, more or less. I mean, so which is the measure of freedom? Which is the measure of happiness? Are you sure that designing the issue like you are used to do is something that they can accept? I give you the example, the historical example, the modern movement. During the modern movement, there were a little group of architects that in 1920 and 1930 decided that the way of living for workers was the minimum standard. Did anybody ask them if they were in agreement or not? So I, well, I understand that I'm not giving you a lot of answers, but I'm just trying to suggest you a kind of attitude that is strictly connected to what Cristiano was saying, that is, of course, in the end, we need to have also some numbers because we have to communicate in example. I imagine to the government that it is necessary to spend money for these communities. But before saying which is the problem, try to understand if they perceive that the problem exists.
Yeah, because
Yes.
oh, sorry.
Yes, I would like to add something because I was referring to others outside the community, right? But if we talk about the community, as Roberto was doing, I would say, like, we sometimes try to improve the lives of others, but from our own point of view. It's very tied to Roberto's idea, right? So my idea of how their lives can be improved is different from theirs. I can give you an example. I work with a company here in Mexico City that designs clothes with artisans, right? And at some point, they were thinking that they could improve the lives of the artisans by giving them more work, right? But they say, okay, if I have more work, I have more money, but then I don't have any time to spend the money, right? So they understood that what they thought was better for the artisan was not actually what the artisan thought was an improvement, right? So for us, and to give you some tools, in business, what we do is we use stakeholder concept. So first we map the stakeholders, we make a list, and then you probably have to talk to them, right? So for example, the heads of the families, I don't know, but then you talk to the children, and then you start thinking about what they want, what they need. And in the end, you try to bring harmony, right? To satisfy as many desires, as many wants as possible, right? Not trying to prioritize also, because that's something that we tend to do. Like we give priority to the head of the house because they are the oldest, right? But what about the children?
Yeah, they are all equal, I think. But we're falling again with this thing of which is vulnerability. Who defines it? I'm like reflective about that, but who defined the vulnerability? I don't really know, but it's interesting the things that you are telling me, because we went actually to the community and we were asking people and trying to understand how they perceive the community. And they told us that the community is normal, but there are like kids that are drugging itself and things like that, and they see that normal. Because we are not seeing that normal, right? We don't see that normal, but the people that lives actually in the community see those things normal.
I suggest you, Daniel, I suggest you a very nice book that is Tom Wolfe, From Bauhaus to Our House. That is a very nice point of view about what I was telling you before, the point of view of architects instead of the point of view of people. And it is really a nice book, and it is quite funny book, because Tom Wolfe was a writer for journals, and he was really, and he wrote a lot of very famous books, and this is quite famous. The point is that how can we define vulnerability? On one side, one element is on one side, I give you just to give you an idea. A vulnerable system is a system that is not stable. So stability is something that we can connect to something not vulnerable. On the other side, a system that is not vulnerable is a system that can evolve. So evolution and stability are two elements that are not matching together, because if you have stability, you have not evolution. And in economy, I mean, sorry, Christian, it means that like economy must improve, like development. Development is something we cannot cancel from the basic rules of economy. So one issue is stability in sense of uh, uh, are the possible damage elements like poverty, social exclusion, and so on, modify in a negative way the community or not. So the community should have some stable elements. Maybe they are stable since 2 or 3 generations. I understood that there are 3 generations that this community exists, this kind of community in Chihuahua. So it is not something that we discovered yesterday. I mean, 3 generations is something stable. And we can imagine, or I suggest you to try to verify if it is possible, if you have data, if you have the opportunity to ask, to speak to the people, which was the situation 2 generations ago? Was it better? Was it worse? Was it the same? Because if things are going better for some elements, maybe they have a better housing, even if it's not normal housing in the way that we consider. But if it is going better, okay, we can understand that having a better house is something that is relevant for them because they moved in this direction. Maybe, without maybe, we live with basic infrastructure in the city, like sewage system, access to clear water, and so on. What did they do during time? If they invested time and money in this, it means that it is relevant for them. If they did not do this, maybe it is not a key point. And another issue, do they have common space, some collective space, something like something that in the normal city we can call like public spaces? Do they try to have maybe a central square or something that we can assimilate to a square where people meet together, that it is a ancient tribal way of living?
Yes.
The ancient tribal way is everything around a center where people meet with a
Yeah,
chief and so on.
actually they have the baseball camp, I think. And the Sundays they go to there and they meet all together. I Another important thing and interesting thing is that all the community knows each other, because we saw an announcement that Lulu, for example, is selling hamburgers Sundays and Saturdays, but they don't put the exact direction.
Address.
They know where lives Lulu, right? And I think that it's some interesting to do that, because they're they're I don't know how to say it,
Well,
but they
Very
I
close.
give you, I give
Yeah.
you, I give you a number. Do you know which is the average in our Western style society? The average number of people that you can know with a certain level of intimacy, 150. This is the average of number of people that you can know with a kind of intimacy. Maybe you have in Facebook or Instagram, I don't know, 5,000 people, 2,000 people, but never mind. The number is around 100, 150, and so on. So they have a level of intimacy higher or bigger or more valuable that you have with your Facebook friends or social media friends.
yeah, actually
Yeah.
they have.
And I will have to run, but I just wanted to say, based on what Roberto has just said, maybe you ask, I don't know how you ask these things, but also, do you really feel this connection? Because if they know each other, I don't know if they trust you already, right? Because they have been probably disappointed by many other people. This is what happened, at least in the experiences that I have been close to in terms of companies that work with artisan indigenous communities and so on. So you will need to spend a lot of time. Right now with COVID, it's very, very difficult to do that, right? Because probably you will not be able to go, but maybe be creative and try to find ways in which you can be close to them. Because I don't know if they trust you enough to tell you that they are worried about drugs problems in their community, right? Maybe they are seeing this guy who comes from tech, which is a privileged university, right? And he comes and asks if I see this as a problem. So maybe I will not disclose my real feelings to you because I don't trust you enough yet. So that will be my final message, because I have to run to another meeting, but try to get to know them in the sense that Roberto said, their connections are probably more deep than what we're used to. So maybe try to connect to them to that level, or maybe something near that. Thank you.
Thank
It was really
you.
nice to
Thank
participate.
you,
I have to run,
Christian.
sorry.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well, I think that we have to run actually to.
Okay.